Isiah Pacheco has been your Super Bowl workhorse running back, and a new guy from Wales adds a little bit of pop. But what does this running back room bring to the 2024 Chiefs? Coming up today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about everyone's favorite position, the running backs, today. We're brought to you by Gametime. Check them out. Make sure you download the Gametime app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first ticket purchase. Terms do apply. We have a great show for you. I want to talk about the position that seems to get everybody riled up. First and foremost, is always running backs, despite what Andy Reid thinks of them. We're going to talk about a number of options here. He's Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner, running down everything for you over there on his Substack for all the business side that you want, the quarterbacks, et cetera. And I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, as well as RGRfootball.com here on YouTube, where we're celebrating our sixth season coming up on that channel. A lot going on there. We have been on this show for going on 8 seasons. We're here for you every single day. That's the gist here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So like this video, subscribe to this channel, maybe even turn the bell on so you get notifications, because you're going to get us 5 days a week plus and then some. Even get the everyday listeners that can go over to the text line if you want to get into that. It's 816-357-8781. Check that out. Coming up, what's the depth situation? What's the one project at this position group? What does our new friend Grease Lightning from Wales bring to the room? But we start with the guy who's been there for this entire thing, and that is Isiah Pacheco. He has been your quarterback of the running back room for these Super Bowl runs. He is the workhorse, despite an injury earlier in the first run. Came back again last season, runs hard, brings it every day. He is the example of the intensity that you want at the position. But he gets to the point where there's a limit to his explosiveness. There's a limit to the big playability, in my opinion, that they're trying to supplement to give him a 1B or a number of 1Bs here. And I think that's important. It has to be a committee. He's clearly the leader, but he can have the impact again by leading this room. And I think that's his biggest attribute.
He needs to lead the room, but he is going to need help, and we're going to be talking about depth and the X factor here in a little bit. But my main point when I say that is you look at the wear and tear that he's had on his body, and he's had a couple of surgeries now just coming in. He needs to have a little bit of help. I do believe he is the workhorse. Don't get me wrong. I think that they're going to use him, and they may end up using him even more than they have in the past, but they're going to need to find times where they can give him a little bit of a rest. Third down is something that his rookie season he didn't play a ton of, but now he's seeing third downs because he's picked up the pass protection, and that's important for that. And if you don't get a guy like Jet McKinnon back, you have to wonder, is Pacheco going to get more of those third down opportunities?
You do, because he's been supplemented on those downs, and Jet McKinnon is still an option out there. Had obviously a surgical issue in the pelvic region he had to come back from just to play at the end of last season. We haven't heard hide nor hair of him. It doesn't mean that it's out of the running. Maybe he's enjoying his rest and recovery, and the Chiefs have some plan later. I would bet after or in training camp, not before, to bring McKinnon back into the fold, and that is certainly an option that we'll get to later. But it is about just letting Pacheco be Pacheco. We have to understand that despite what most people think of the running back position on this roster, a rookie contract is a rookie contract, and everything after that gets a little bit iffy for running backs. I am of the mindset that I love what he does. I love his fit. I think he brings everything he needs to bring. He just needs a little bit more home run mentality or ability, and you can supplement that with his backups. But I think you got to use Pacheco to his most this particular season. Next season will likely be his last on the contract, maybe last in a Chiefs uniform. You're getting to the end there, but I would maximize Pacheco this season.
Well, if they're going to maximize him this season, I mean, you're looking at a situation where he's going to be a 3-down back, and you have to make sure that you're getting him more involved in the passing game than he was even last year. Like I said, he was in there on third downs. He was mostly blocking when he was in there on third downs, but they did throw him the ball a little bit, and he did pretty well with it. So if you're going to maximize him, you have to find more times to use him and not necessarily run on first down, run on second down, like Andy Reid has a tendency to do. Maybe you throw the ball to him out of the backfield on first and second down, change what he's doing, change the way that they have to defend him, which gives him the ability to maximize his exposure and maximize all of his touches.
Yeah. It's clearly the way of the future to use him in every way possible. I think the screen game can now take another step forward a little bit as one of the side effects of this wide receiver core that we're going to talk about coming up next week, folks. So make sure you tune in for the wide receiver talk because it affects this position as well. By having all this speed and all this ability to stress safety levels, it opens up the box and it keeps two highs, I think, in a higher percentage this season, which allows the running game to be used to its maximum. And Pacheco in particular, even if it's on short passes.
Yeah, and you have to wonder how many they're going to have in the box. If you have Worthy out there and you have Rashee Rice out there and you have Travis Kelce out there and you have Hollywood Brown out there, how many are they going to keep in the box to try to defend that? Because you have a lot of speed. And I'm not saying Kelce's fast, but when you look at the tight end position and what he generally does, he's going to be opening up the middle of the field. He's going to be challenging the deeper parts of the middle of the field. Generally speaking, and Rashee Rice is going to be doing the same thing. So they're all going to be going a little bit deeper. Is that going to make them get to a situation where they're only going to have 6-7 people in the box against Pacheco? That would be Pacheco's dream come true. That'd be, in some ways, Andy Reid's dream come true because that gives him the ability to run the ball even more than he did last year and take some pressure off the passing offense, which I think is still going to be effective. But if you're seeing 6- and 7-man boxes, because they're afraid of your deep speed, take advantage of it, give it to your running back, or take advantage of it and get it to your wide receivers in a short position. I know we're talking running back, but it all kind of plays into it. However you're going to use your offense and use your pieces out there, get the ball to them in space, get it to them quick, and take advantage of whatever the light boxes you get this year, because I do think they're going to see some with all the speed they have on the field.
Yeah, I expect a 6-man box to be normal, and you're going to see some 5s too, because teams are going to have to come up with ways to defeat and augment what they're doing to stop the passing game. I think it's right for the taking, but you still need that upside, that home run ability. And one player in particular has started to make his way, but is that option, I think, in terms of what the Chiefs have on the roster right now, what's LRZ bringing to the table? I think it's a lot, and it's coming up right here after a word from our pals.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and much, much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not your cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Check out the Locked On Sports Today feed for 24/7 coverage that you don't have to listen to ESPN or CBS or some talking head shouting at you. We're going to give you the inside experts on every team of all the major stories 24/7. Any day that you want, you will find it on Locked On Sports Today here on YouTube or on Amazon Fire TV. What else is on fire? And that is Grease Lightning, one of the nicknames that Louis Rees-Zammit goes by, LRZ, obviously the big popular one. And I am one everyone knows is a proponent of the run game as a physicality max, something to bring another aspect to the game that puts pressure on the defense. I am hesitant, though, to be very, very excited about generally rookies. We had the Darwin Thompson experiment that never went anywhere, right? Like, we've seen some rookies not be able to make it. The difference for me on Rees-Zammit is the fact that he's, yes, a rookie in the NFL, but he's been a professional athlete. He understands how to get prepared yes, it's a different sport, and I'm not trying to say that it isn't, but I believe that while he has to learn the inside of the game, running with the ball in his hand is a natural act for him. And I do feel because of his speed, once he adjusts his upright running style, which he will definitely have to do, I think he can provide that X factor on top to or next to Isiah Pacheco that gives him a little bit of relief and a very different aspect for this offense.
Yeah, and it's going to be intriguing to see how they use LRZ on the offense, because you look at what he brings to the table, you look at what he was able to do as a rugby player, and he gives you all different types of options. And we've talked about it on the kickoff return. Talking about it when he's a running back is a different level, because you hand the ball off to him. Is he going to be one of those guys that takes 4 or 5 steps and pitches it back to Patrick, because that's something that he's used to doing on a regular basis? It changes what you could be doing. He might be running with the ball, but it can always go back to Patrick if it's a handoff. So it changes his experience. It changes what the Chiefs are able to do, and I would imagine they're going to be a lot more comfortable with him doing something like that, other than a guy like Pacheco who hasn't had the experience of playing rugby. Then you look at the way he runs and his ability to, his agility and all of that. And you talked about him having to learn how to get down a little bit, and that's something he's going to have to figure out. And I think he's going to get a big awakening when it comes to training camp, because I think that's where he's going to take his first hit. But the big question is how does he learn from it? How does he bounce back, and how does he adapt? And I do think that that's going to be something that we're going to see a little bit of when he gets into the preseason games, is his adaptation to fit into more of a running back role in the NFL, so he's not getting killed when he's getting hit. He's going to have to adjust to that, and that's going to be something big that's going to probably change his game a little bit, but it's not something that I don't think he can adjust to.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think the really interesting wrinkle here is, as we talked in the first period, getting Isiah Pacheco involved more, for me in particular, looks like the inside shovels that we've seen them do over the last few years. That screams Pacheco to me. But if you're talking about what Andy always quotes as a true extension of the running game being the short passing game, that screams this kid Zammit to me. Because especially coming in out of the slot, if he has a horizontal aspect to his game, which I think will then feed into the verticality that we've seen him use in rugby. He is usually the pitch recipient in rugby. So I think that's really what we want to look to emulate, right? To get him on an angle where he can take maybe a shallow angle even and turn it up and get loose. He has the speed to beat linebackers all day long. He'll beat most safeties. But it's just about getting him to the point where he can turn and go. I don't think he's a weaver. I don't think that he is a Jamal that's going to make guys miss left and right. He needs an angle, and when he sees it, he's going to burst. And that's, I think, the home run aspect that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see how he does catching the ball when we get to training camp and we're actually able to see it. I understand he's the guy that's been getting the pitches, and that makes a ton of sense. It's a little different when you're talking about catching a football, because you're catching it usually around your head or over your head, whereas rugby, you're catching it generally in your body. I'm not going to say it's completely different, but there is a little bit of an adaptation I think you'll have to make there. But you have to imagine that if he can make that adaptation and he can make it quickly, you're absolutely right. Those interior routes where you're looking at, slants and maybe a quick hook at times to do different things. I mean, it depends on down and distance, and it depends on what they're trying to do, but there's all different things that he's going to be able to do with his quickness and his agility. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm just curious to see how much they get him involved early on, because while I do think that he makes the team as one of the main kick returners, how quickly are they going to get him involved in the offense? Because he's coming from something where he's never really played professional football. Are they going to take time to get him in, or are they going to do what they did with, and I hate saying it this way, so please don't take this as I'm comparing him to Tyreek Hill, but are they going to take it to where he's going to do something like what they did with Hill his rookie year, or what they did with Rice last year to an extent? Are they going to slowly get him involved in the offense and not make it something where he has to be in there and know most of the plays? I think that's the way that it probably goes, but it's going to be intriguing to see how much he can pick up and how quickly.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. I think we talk about him, we talked about him in this segment in particular because of his upside. not the floor. You're right. How you get him into the offense and how he becomes part of it, I think is still a work in progress and will be for most of the season. And I'm not going to ask him to run, 15-yard digs. I'm not throwing go balls to him, and I'm not asking him to go up over the middle at the crossbar. It is a specific skill set that I think will help him, but it is that grab, plant, and go mentality and experience that he has that is so intriguing. But he's not alone. There are other options. There are other guys behind them that are going to have to come together as a unit to form this running back room. Who are they? Who brings what to the table, especially this time of year? That's coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's getting hot out there. It is summertime, and that means that it's baseball. NBA Finals and hockey finals are done. You can bet everything that you're looking for baseball-wise on through the football season right now at FanDuel. Right now, at this moment, they're giving new customers $200 in bonus bets for winning a $5 bet. Super simple. That's $200 back in bonus bets on anything and everything that you want to bet on any of this. And you can get one hit to go out of the park. You're in business. FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can go there and make a big win. Get your summer bucket list sorted out and get it accomplished at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now, potential and upside is one thing. That's what these two guys have. But what's behind them? How do we create and how will we see the Chiefs create their running back room for the season? Names behind them: Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a familiar face. Deneric Prince, we've seen some. Keontae Ingram is now on the roster. And then the rookies in Carson Steele and Amani Bailey. A lot of options there, but nothing that screams they have to be on the field all the time. I do feel like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a reliable go-to in relief in case of injury, etc. But I don't see, other than a handful of plays, as he's someone that I have to make sure I get snaps for every week. Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. I think that it would be nice if they got him more involved in the passing game than they have in the past. I just don't understand. They put him in there and they run the ball, where if he was catching the ball out of the backfield or at least running routes, that's one of his best skill sets. You take advantage of that. That would be a great time to get Pacheco off the field at times, is give Clyde a chance to catch the ball, because he does do really well when you're talking about catching the ball out of the backfield. But the Chiefs have never really used him in that aspect, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Yeah, and we never have. We've been asking for 5 years, put that together. All the way back to LSU, where it was one of the best things that he did on the field. I think you can still call him maybe the primary backup in terms of like being able to know the offense and come in and do everything. I'm really interested to see where that falls, because beyond that, I think it's all a question mark. We talked about Rees-Zammit. I think he could end up by the end of the season being that third back that gets on the field and provides a little bit of explosiveness. Deneric Prince, I think, still has potential, but we didn't see enough of it. And I actually thought that P. Ryan outperformed him last year. So with P. Ryan's departure, I was a little surprised by that. But he and Keontae Ingram in particular, I don't see a whole lot of upside there. Do you?
I don't think so, but it's hard to know without really seeing them actually in pads and taking the ball and running. I mean, that's really the big question. And when you get a guy like Deneric Prince, who came in and had a good camp early on last year and then seemed to basically kind of lose it towards the end, you have to wonder if maybe another year in camp and another year with the Chiefs is going to give him more confidence and be able to get him to where maybe he can be a guy that can contribute at least a little bit on this roster. Whether or not he makes the roster is a whole nother question. And that's the big thing when we start looking at this, is how many running backs are they going to keep? You would think it's going to be 4. They've done 5 in the past, but this group, it doesn't have the depth that some of those other groups have had. And, other than a guy like Carson Steele, who would be basically like a fullback, you would think that if he makes the team, they would go 5, because they would likely keep regularly 4 runners on the team other than Carson Steele. But with other position battles, that's the big question. And we're going to get into wide receivers and all that later. And we talked about offensive line to an extent already, but that's the big question. How many running backs are you going to be able to keep?
Yeah.
And how many force their way onto the roster?
Well, and that's the thing, as I look down the list here, I think Rees-Zammit's already done that with the special teams duties. So he's on the roster, and that's why I keep coming back to him as one of the top 3 in the end. Maybe not to start the season, but by the end, I do think that that'll be true. The guy that's intriguing to me is Imani Bailey because I do think he has bursts that he can turn on when he needs it, but he's got to show the ability to do that consistently and to avoid tackles. Because of his size, I do think forcing his tackles is going to be the biggest metric that you can follow to see if he has a chance to actually play in this league.
Well, and the big question when you get to LRZ being the third guy is, generally speaking, the Chiefs have had 3 guys active and maybe sometimes a fullback in the past when they had one. I don't think you can have 4 guys active. So if LRZ is going to be on the field, are they going to really want to keep 4? Because if you look at it, they're not going to be able to have 4 active on game day more than likely. That should generally just not how it's going to work.
Agreed. And I think maybe not with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Somebody might pick him up. But with everybody else, I think it's very clearly a situation where you can get him on the practice squad. And you can maintain your running back core half on the practice squad and do elevations when you need it based on the specific usage that week.
And the big thing that we have to remember, because we always get enamored, you and I have done this to an extent, but fans always get enamored also. When you watch a running back go in the 3rd and 4th quarter in the preseason game and dominate, that was Deneric Prince last year. If they're going to have a guy that's going to step in and be that 3rd running back instead of LRZ, then they need to have him going up against the 2s. They need to have him maybe even get some carries with the 1s just to see what he can give you at times. It doesn't have to be a full series. It doesn't have to be, multiple plays in a row. It just has to be, okay, can he go out there and can he pick up a blitz? Do you trust him to do that? Is that something that you're going to want him to do? Because that's generally what a 3rd running back is going to do, is be a good pass blocker. So it all falls down into what are you going to be able to get these guys to do, and you have to make sure that you're putting them in the best position, but you also have to make sure that you're getting them against legitimate competition if you want to see if they have something that's available for the roster. Because Deneric Prince last year, and there's been guys in the past, and I'm blanking on some of the other guys in the past that have done it as well, that go in there and have big games in the 3rd and 4th quarter in the preseason, and it doesn't matter. Because the team already knows they're not going to make the roster. They may be better than the 3rd and 4th stringers they're playing against, but that doesn't mean they're good enough to play in the NFL on a regular basis and get snaps.
Yep. It is hard to measure. So I would say, not to discount anything else, but first half performances in the preseason stack up to more meaning than anything else. So keep that in mind as we get to that point. Who are you looking for to make an impact? Who's your running back of choice behind Isiah Pacheco? Leave that down in the comments on YouTube or in the reviews on Spotify or Apple Music. We appreciate you guys being with us every single day. You everydayers are the heart and soul of the show because you guys are always here. We appreciate you being on the text line as well at 816-357-8781. Make sure you like and sub and hit this one. This podcast is 5 days a week, year-round, no matter what. We might take a vacation or two, but that's about it, and you're going to get extra content once camp opens, so continue to get ready with us. We're going to have a fun show tomorrow for you. Next week, we're going to start in on the wide receiver position that everyone wants to talk about as we run down options. So make sure you're with us and you are subscribed. Thanks for spending your time with us today. We very much appreciate it. Check out everything else over at Chiefs Corner, at NFL 33, and at RGR Football. Thanks for being with us today, and we'll check you back tomorrow. Talk to you then.